Hello again everybody, and I'm back with part 2 of this whole Creepshow drama, this time covering the Emily Artful allegations because, like I said in my last video, those were so extensive I really had to make a separate video, and here we are. I know this topic has been done to death, and believe me, I know people are tired of seeing this topic all over their homepages, but I do feel the need to cover this section as it is a pretty big part of the story, greatly overshadowing the locale stuff at this point. And by the way, apologies that uploads have been extremely sparse. I just really haven't found any topics that have piqued my interest, plus I've also been busy with my own personal work and life, so yeah, sorry about that, and sorry that videos will likely continue to be kind of scarce in the future. But without further ado, let's just get right into the topic at hand, and for legality's sake, everything in this video is either alleged or my opinion, so take with that what you will. So this all began when a YouTuber called Emily Artful came out with a tweet right as the local allegations were beginning to pick up steam, accusing Shannon of stalking her, harassing her, threatening her and her children's lives, as well as holding inappropriate images of her over her head, allegedly some of which she was a minor in, and getting her fired from a job, not to mention Shannon dating and then marrying her ex-boyfriend who was incredibly abusive and alleged to have R-worded her at one point. So that's also not the best look for Creepshow, among many more things. There are so many aspects to the situation I can't even begin to cover, which is why I recommend you watch Emily's video herself. It is very long, but it's obviously a lot more detailed than what I can provide you now. Plus, I feel like it's just a lot better if you hear it from Emily herself instead of me trying to retell her story. Since then, a lot more has come out regarding these claims that give a lot towards the credibility of these allegations, specifically clips from videos that Creepshow had deleted herself, likely to avoid backlash from the entire situation or to hide evidence. And here's a little, exposition before I go into the specifics of what was found. Basically, Emily had been contacted by various alternate accounts, some of which claimed that their brother had been intensively stalking her from the age of 10 and was also put into a mental hospital, some trying to start drama between her and Creepshow, and some that were just, sock puppets just saying really shitty things. Namely, this account, Brianna Lang, will come up, and another thing I want to mention is that Emily had sent these accounts links that had location grabbers on them, and the location that these accounts had been coming from was a place in Oregon called Tigard, so do keep that in mind. A lot has come out that gives validity to the allegations that these accounts were indeed Shannon, which I will be going over now. Firstly, I would like to touch on the Brianna Lang account. This person had been trying to point out how similar Creepshow's content was to Emily's, and interestingly enough, an account with the very same profile picture and name can be seen in Creepshow's now deleted video, admitting what I've done, DMs included, shocking, story time, where this account had been sending Creepshow incredibly shittily written hate messages that are very obviously either from a troll or someone pretending to be one. Comparing the messages sent to Shannon versus the messages sent to Emily, there's a very obvious grammatical shift with the messages sent to her being far less idiotic. Now sure, maybe you can argue that this person was like an Emily Artful fan who thinks Creepshow copied her and hates Shannon for it and wants Emily to call her out or something, but given Creepshow's history of talking to herself on different accounts, I really do believe that it's more likely she had the sock account already laying around and this used it for some easy content. However, that's not all, as a former classmate of Creepshow's had come out with a very long thread on Twitter, detailing their experiences with catching Creepshow harassing somebody. The thread is, quite lengthy, so I'll try to condense everything the best I can. Obviously, I'm going to be speedrunning this, so I'm going to be going over some details that I don't feel are relevant, and it's just best if you read it yourself. I'll have it linked in the description. So it starts off with the OP, Kevin, meeting Shannon in college in 2011. They didn't really have much contact, didn't really know each other, and Kevin would end up leaving their hometown later on and going to a different school, where they met their abuser who had isolated them from all of their friends. Shannon later on ended up at that same school, and looking for new connections, Kevin started hanging out with her. And, things started out okay, and then Shannon started introducing them to Anthony, Emily's ex, and her current boyfriend's music. Kevin mentioned that they thought the way Anthony treated her wasn't very healthy, but Shannon brushed them off, stating that he was good for her, which seems to be kind of running theme here, where people try to advise Creepshow that, her partner is not very good to her, or good in general, and then she just says, no, it's fine. And then Emily was mentioned by Shannon as Anthony's quote-unquote crazy ex, and she would talk about her often, putting her down in pretty much any way she could, and from there, Kevin says that Shannon began to cyberstalk her, starting by finding her YouTube and then going on to try and look for things like phone numbers, home addresses, pretty much anything she could find. She told them about her plans to harass Emily with prank calls, letters, hate messages from burner accounts, and then this is when Kevin began to distance themselves until blocking her after receiving odd messages late at night a few years down the line. Then, about a year ago, Shannon suddenly added them again after no contact and Kevin were completely rebranding, so they sent her this message. It is pretty lengthy, so I'll just, toss it up on screen screen for you to read. Pause if you need it while I summarize. The message basically mentioned Shannon's past concerning behavior, why it was overlooked, and how they hope that she's changed and no longer engages in that type of activity. Shannon allegedly, since there's no screenshot of her saying this, replied telling Kevin that we were just dumb kids in an attempt to brush off accountability, and that she had found their new accounts naturally despite neither of them sharing a circle, and responding that she would block them if it made them feel better or more comfortable. And obviously this was not super in-depth, and I skipped over a lot of parts in that message I didn't feel were quite relevant, so I will link the full thread in the description like I mentioned earlier so you can read for yourself. But anyways, the evidence provided here also lines up with this clip of one of Shannon's early videos.
So before I get started, I do have a confession to make. I am essentially Neve from Catfish with how fucking good I am at online stalking. Like, I'm amazing at it, guys. You have no idea. Honestly, a lot of people have tried to make me feel bad about how good I am at it, and I don't fucking care at this point. Like,
here she says that, oh, she's so good at cyberstalking, but people don't like that, but oh yeah, fuck them, right? Like, I feel like that's kind of rooted in reality considering what this person is saying, so yeah. Not to mention the fact that she's bragging about being good at cyberstalking and she's being accused of cyberstalking. I don't know, it makes sense. Another thing that lines up is what I mentioned earlier with the accounts harassing Emily for being from Tigard, Oregon. Now take a listen to this clip from an interview Shannon did a while back.
The clone that came after that, they were very, very much like, we're just going to put this thing here and we're going to talk over it and that's going to be what it is. And I was like, I don't have access to games. I'm homeless. I have an iPhone and I have like my sketchbooks. So I would go every day to a Starbucks or to the Tigard Public Library and I would sit and I would just draw for hours trying to like get one video done.
She specifically mentions a library in that exact part of Oregon, and if that wasn't enough for you, Shannon's sibling, who she had doxed on Locale, came out briefly with a public AMA about the entire situation, and this is what they had to say in response to a question about the Emily deal. In response to somebody asking them about it, they said, I actually caught her using multiple accounts to harass Emily. I don't remember the year that it happened, I just know that she had multiple accounts messaging cruel and kind things to somebody. When I asked her about it, she told me that it was Anthony's ex. It is also worth noting that Shannon's sibling also does not believe Shannon's Amy story, which, in case you didn't know, was somebody that Shannon alleged to have stalked her in high school in a very similar way to Emily's story. This is what they had to say on the matter. I know I don't know everything that went on in Shannon's life, especially when we were younger, but I don't think there ever was an Amy. I agree with Emily's take on Amy entirely. Emily's take being that Amy was never real, and it was a way for Shannon to try and say that Emily was copying her if she ever came out about her own story. And anyways, that is about it for this evidence backing up Emily's story. And with that, I will get to some final thoughts I have about this whole shit show, no pun intended. As more and more comes out about this whole thing, I find it increasingly hard to believe that Shannon could somehow just be completely innocent throughout all of this. Things are just lining up a little too well, and it seriously is not looking good for her. Honestly, I am just incredibly surprised that someone who could do these things, be okay with dating and even marrying somebody who allegedly done even worse, went so long being so generally well liked and respected. I mean, like, obviously the image had been falling apart after the Hopeless Peaches drama, and it's pretty much completely collapsed now, but for years, so many people genuinely looked up to Creepshow, and she was a huge figure in the community, and there's no denying that. It's not really a nuclear take here, but I really do think that Shannon needs to respond to this with the amount of evidence that's been mounting up against her over these past few weeks. There has to be some kind of response eventually, not just kind of quietly deleting videos and disappearing off YouTube forever. Obviously, people want her gone, but not without a response, because quite frankly, people who are hardcore fans, supporters, friends, everyone should just get some kind of closure on this whole thing. Personally, I believe that even if she just put out a statement admitting to everything, saying, yes, I did these things, apologizing, taking some kind of action to try and somehow do right by those she hurt, there would still not be much of a future here considering how fucking hard she got cancelled. Like, her sub count went down literally beyond James Charles 2019 Dramageddon levels of loss, and I am currently curious to see how she chooses to react to this, and I don't doubt that she's, taking time away from the internet, seeing as she's getting slammed harder than pretty much anyone up to this point in recent cancellation history. But if she does choose to ever come back and give a statement, I want to know what it'll look like. She's tried giving one before, and we all know how well that one went over, so I do want to know if she tried to make excuses, actually bring forth some holy grail of proven innocence, admit to it, or just what? Like, honestly. I unfortunately believe that this will be the last we'll see of Shannon, however, considering that she posted on her Instagram about quitting YouTube, and it's been radio silent ever since. And I really just do hope that somewhere down the line we do get a response, because I am curious for an explanation, as are many others. That about does it for my thoughts on this situation, and I will be getting on to the outro. So yeah, that's what it for today's topic. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully I won't have to cover the situation again, but for now I'll leave it at that. Again, I am very sorry that videos will be few and far between. I'm participating in the art fight this month. If you want to follow me, links will be in the description down below for all my social medias as well. If you want to browse through my catalogs of videos, feel free, and if you like this one, perhaps drop a sub. It helps me and the channel out, and without further ado, I'll be getting out of here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.